to Zoo School Live. Today we have Mateo, our Ocelot, for you to watch, and hopefully he'll stay in front of us and eat food. So first off, like I said, this is Mateo. He's an Ocelot. He's 5 years old, and he is full size. He's not going to get any bigger than this. He wasn't born at this zoo. He was actually born at Dallas Zoo in Texas, and he came here to live with us. He'll probably be here his whole life, and hopefully soon we'll get a girlfriend for him. So these guys are least concern. That means they're not endangered yet, but they are in decline. So their numbers are dropping. So there is some conservation to help them. They're no longer hunted for their fur. That was a big issue up until about 1970 because they have very soft fur, and as you can see, they have really pretty patterns. But for now, that's not really an issue. So now their biggest thing they have to deal with is deforestation and farming. And there's still a good number of them though. There's about 800,000 to 1.5 million estimated to still live in the wild, and about 60 of those actually live in the US. These guys live in South, Central, and North America. They don't go all the way down to the bottom of South America. They actually go just about to the northern tip of Argentina. And then in the US, they're found in Texas and Arizona. They used to have a much larger range, but they were kind of pushed out as we developed the US. So there's not as many living here now. They prefer to live in very dense forests, or they live in shrubland and savannas. So they're kind of a catch-all cat. They'll live anywhere, basically. They do like to climb, and they're very, very good climbers. They're also not afraid of water. So Mateo will actually go swimming sometimes. Usually he doesn't do it because he wants to get wet. He does it to go get food, or if we put a toy in the pool and he wants to get it out. But he doesn't really mind getting too wet. And then you'll see him lick all the water angrily off himself for the next few hours because he gets offended that he has wet paws. And as you can see, these guys have a really, really pretty pattern. So if you were here for our Jaguar one, you know they have a special pattern called a rosette. And those are those little spots that have a dark ring with tan in the middle. They also have what's called chain rosettes. So that's where the rosettes are actually chained together, and it makes those longer looking spots on him. And he's actually very, very light color for ocelots. They have a huge color range. So these guys go from this really, really light yellow to almost a reddish gray in color. But they always have the dark marks. And then if you look at his tail, it actually ends in rings. So he has white and black on his tail. And they also have little eye spots on the back of their ears. So you'll see that they're black with a white mark. Those are actually so that if predators are behind him, they might think that he's actually looking at them. So then they won't attack him because they think that they're being watched. A lot of cats actually have that. You probably saw it on our Jaguars as well. So you'll probably see also Mateo is chowing down right now. So he gets almost the same diet every day. He gets about a ½ pound of ground meat, which is what he's licking off that tube right now. He also gets 20 grams of chicken breast every day. We use that mainly for training because he really, really loves chicken breast. And he also gets about 60 grams of beef chunk or fish. That changes every day. It's not always the same thing. And then he also gets 1 small rat a day, which it doesn't look like he found yet because he probably got distracted by that big old bone, which is actually a special thing for him just for today. And like I said, he is full-sized right now. So these guys finished growing at about 2 to 3 years old, and he is 5 now, so he's completely done growing. He weighs 25 pounds, but these guys do have a huge size range. So some of the smaller females will be about 15 pounds, and some of the really, really big boys will be about 34 pounds. So he's kind of right in the middle. He's not too small, he's not too big. And these guys can live into their 20s in zoos. The oldest one we have on record was about 28 years old. In the wild, they live somewhere around 10 to 15 years. They do get eaten by other predators in the wild, so they will actually occasionally be eaten by jaguars, cougars, boa constrictors, anacondas, and sometimes harpy eagles will eat them as well. They're a really, really big eagle that lives down in South America. So they do sometimes get eaten. In the wild, they also eat things themselves. And like I said, they're kind of a catch-all cat, so if they can catch it, they'll eat it. They eat birds, mammals, reptiles. Sometimes they'll even eat monkeys. They eat baby deer, baby peccaries. As you can see, he's not very big, so he can't eat anything super, super huge. But he will run through trees to chase monkeys and birds. And they're actually really good climbers, even when it comes to rock walls and stuff. So there's actually some really neat pictures online, if you ever look, of an ocelot who was hunting macaws that were eating out of a salt lick on the side of a cliff, which is kind of impressive that she managed to catch it. So they're really, really good hunters. And they are solitary, so they typically live alone, so it's not weird to see Mateo just hanging out by himself. They don't really like other ocelots to be around. It's a lot like other cats, where the male will have a bigger territory that kind of overlaps with a couple females, and then the females have their own smaller territories. And the females will raise the babies by themselves, so usually Mateo will visit them, do his business, and then the ladies will make a little den somewhere, and they usually have 1 to 4 babies. It's more typical for them to have 1 to 2, and they are born with their eyes closed. At about 3 weeks old, their eyes will open. About 2 weeks old, their eyes are open. And when they open, they actually have blue eyes. And then once they're a little bit older, their eyes will actually turn a golden brown color, and they'll stay that color for the rest of their life. And these babies will hang out with their moms for almost 2 years. So they'll go out and they'll start hunting with her when they're about 4 to 6 weeks old, and she'll teach them how to catch prey. And they'll start eating meat when they're about 8 weeks old, and they wean at about 6 to 8 months, depends on the individuals. And then they'll kind of hang out with their mom until they're about 2 years old. And if they're females, they might try and stay near her and make a territory around her. And usually the boys kind of disperse a little bit further off because dad doesn't want them to hang around. So these guys also have some really amazing senses. So you see his little ears flicking over there. They're not the biggest ears, but he does have really good hearing. So he can hear a lot better than we can. And I don't know if you saw him, he's closer, but he also has super, super long whiskers. So just like a house cat, he uses those whiskers to feel things. They're super sensitive. So he can feel if he's gonna step on some crunchy grass, or to see if an area is gonna be a little bit too tight for him to squeeze through. So he has a lot of uses for those. He also has a really good sense of smell. So we'll actually use a lot of scent enrichment for Mateo. He really, really likes cinnamon and peppermint. Those are 2 of his favorite smells. Sorry guys, it looks like he took his bone into the corner, so hopefully we can find him again. Sometimes he likes to carry it around and eat it somewhere where he feels safe. So hopefully he comes back out again. So like I was saying, he has a really good sense of smell, so we'll use a lot of scent enrichment for him. So we'll use cinnamon and peppermint, perfumes. He also really likes Obsession by Calvin Klein. A lot of cats like that. So we can make little scent trails for him, or put scent on toys. He usually rubs his body all over them. If you put it on logs, he likes to scratch the scent off of them and rub his little butt on all of the smells you give him. And they also have really good vision. So a lot of people think that cats can't see color. That's actually not true. Scientists right now think that they can see green, blue, and yellow, and shades of red. So essentially the world to them just looks a little bit more washed out than it does to us. They can't see as many shades, but they still can see color. So he has a purple ball out there, and he can see that it's a weird color. He probably can't see that it's purple, but it might look more reddish or yellow to him. They also can't see as far away as we can, so they're nearsighted. So something that looks really clear to us that might be far off in the distance will look kind of fuzzy to them, but as soon as it gets a little bit closer, it's actually a lot sharper for them. He's munching away on his tree over there. And like I said, he is a super good climber, so hopefully he'll play with some of those other toys in the trees for us. He usually will actually bring the toys over to him. He's super smart in that respect. So sometimes we hang toys off of a really long chain for him, and you can actually see him pull the toy up by the chain and then scoop the food out while he hangs on to the toy with his other hand, which is actually pretty impressive. Not a lot of animals can figure out how to use feeders that way, but Mateo's kind of a little genius. And some of you may have seen, I do train him. So he knows a few behaviors. We use them all for vet care, but he usually picks up behaviors in just 1 to 2 sessions because he's super, super smart. So he's actually gonna get his rat out now. That is his favorite food. It is in a little ball, and you'll see the tiny holes are a little bit too small for his hands, but he's actually really good at getting it out. And I'm glad he's gonna do it right here for us. So I'll answer some questions for you guys now. If you have more too and we don't get to them, feel free to type them in there, and I'll try to come back later and answer more questions for you. Isaiah would like to know, how fast can he run? So I'm not actually sure about the exact number. He's not as fast as something like a cheetah or a jaguar or even a leopard because he's a little bit smaller. But he's still pretty speedy. He's fast enough to catch birds and small mammals and rodents. Caleb would like to know, how long do they live? So in zoos, these guys will live into their 20s, sometimes a little later. It does depend on the individual. So he does have vet care here, which if he's sick or doesn't feel good, we can help him to feel better, or if something goes wrong, we can fix it. In the wild, they're gonna live about 10 to 15 years. The oldest ocelot ever recorded in zoos was 28 years old. Noah would like to know, how heavy is he? Is he bigger than a pet cat? He is. He's almost twice the size of most pet cats. So he weighs 25 pounds. And some of the bigger ocelots can be about 34 pounds. So he's not too small and not too big. Some of the littlest ocelots will just be about 15 pounds. Zachary would like to know when his birthday is. I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you his birthday. His birthday is actually March 20th, 2015. So he is 5 years old right now. Gavin would like to know, would he hang out with other ocelots? So right now we don't have other ocelots for him to hang out with, but we're hoping we can get a lady for him. And we'll see how they act. They don't usually like to hang out with other ocelots. Usually they just hang out for a couple days and then they're done with each other. But we'll see how he does. He does actually like to talk to the cougars who live across the hallway from him in the morning. But I'm not sure how he's going to react to a female. The only other ocelot he ever lived with was his mom. Maria would like to know what his favorite food is. So you saw him just chowing down on a rat. That's actually his favorite food. But he does really like chicken breast and fish as well. And obviously, as you saw him take away his bone, he likes those as well. But rats so far have been his favorite. Henry would like to know, does he swim? So he does on occasion. Usually he only goes in the water if we put toys or food in there for him. He'll scoop out like little fish or rats if you put them in the water for him. But he doesn't usually just go in the water because he doesn't like to have to dry himself off after. Pamela would like to know, are they nocturnal? They are. So they will also be a little bit crepuscular, which means they're active in dawn and dusk, but typically they're nocturnal. And on a really cloudy day like today, they might actually be a little bit active during the day, but typically in the daytime, they'll find a safe space like in a tree or in a bush, and they'll just kind of sleep the whole day, keep themselves safe. But Mateo, we were able to kind of swap his, when he's awake a little bit. He still sleeps for most of the day, but he's a little bit more active than he would be normally in the wild. Madeline would like to know what he's eating right now. So at this moment, he's taking some ground meat out of that little plastic gourd. He also had a beef chunk that he was eating in the tree earlier, so essentially it was just a piece of steak. And he had a rat that he was munching on. And then the big bone that you saw is, I believe, a deer's shoulder blade. And there's a little bit of meat on there too, so we had some venison. Liam and Ronan would like to know, why do their eyes change colors? So they just change colors from when they're babies. They get darker because their bodies will produce more melanin, and that turns their eyes brown. A lot of people actually are born with light eyes too, and then they darken as they age. And what are some of their other predators besides eagles? So they'll also very occasionally get hunted by jaguars and cougars, which are the other two big cats that live in the same area as them. And then big snakes will eat them. So anacondas and boa constrictors are some of their other biggest predators. Avery, would like to know if he climbs and what is his favorite thing to climb. He does climb, so you might have seen him sitting in the trees. He really likes, especially if there's a bird in here being silly, he likes to run along all the branches and jump from branch to branch. I don't think he has a favorite thing to climb, but he does seem to be pretty fond about the pieces of wood that stick out of the building up top here. You'll see little posts on the wall. He actually likes to sit on those. They give him a really high vantage point, and then you can see out on the zoo. Mateo actually really likes to watch people, so he usually sits up high so he can see everyone in the zoo. Carla would like to know, does he make a sound? He does. So ocelots, being a small cat, can actually purr. He makes little meowing sounds, a lot like a cat, and he also growls a lot. Ocelots are super, super grumbly cats. They're not always angry, but a lot of the times they do growl. So that's the sound he makes most of the time. Catherine would like to know, does he purr? He does, Catherine, once in a while. I haven't heard it very often myself. Usually he's just meowing to me and begging for more food in the morning. RJ would like to know, how strong is his bite? I don't actually know the number off the top of my head, but if you look at his jaws, he does have a very wide head compared to something like a house cat, so he actually can bite harder than a cat that would be about his size. Mauve would like to know, why do they climb trees? So for a few reasons. They climb trees to hunt, so some of their prey lives up in trees, like birds and monkeys, but they also will climb trees to be safe from other predators or to look for other prey to eat. So since they are such good climbers, they can actually chase monkeys and birds through the trees without falling out. Caleb would like to know, how many do you have on site? So right now it's just Mateo, but like I said, we're hoping that eventually we can actually get him a girlfriend. Sydney would like to know, does he shed his fur? He does, but he kind of sheds year-round, so he doesn't have a thick winter coat that he loses all at once. We just find little hairs all the time, and sometimes he actually sheds his whiskers too, and then those grow back. Preston would like to know what his favorite spot in his exhibit is. So he actually has two, depending on the weather. His first favorite spot is this little hut that he is going to take his bone into, actually. What perfect timing. So that's his little cat box. You might have seen he jumped through a hole in the front. That's actually his heated cat box. So in the winter time, we have a radiant heater in there, and it keeps the box at about 70 to 80 degrees for him. So it's really toasty, and the wall on front just makes sure the heat stays in. His other favorite spot is really hard to see from out front here, but he has kind of a little wall by his shift door. So you see that white wood right there. There's a flat piece of wood on top of that, and he actually likes to sit up there and lay down. So that's actually one of his favorite spots, especially when it's toasty. And I think that's all we have for questions. Oh no, there's a couple more. Pamela would like to know, are they in the cheetah family? I don't know 100% for sure because I forget the scientific name of cheetahs. They are all cats, so they're all felids, but they are separate. Cheetahs are actually only related to a couple cats. They're related to cougars and jaguarundis. Cougars and jaguarundi do live in South America, but they're not super closely related with Mateo. He is in Leopardus, so he's related to a bunch of other small cats. Faith would like to know, are they endangered? So not yet, Faith. They are in decline, which means their numbers are dropping from what we can see, but right now they're still listed as least concern. Josh would like to know, why are there white spots on the backs of his ears? That's a really good question. So those are actually called eye spots. Supposedly they do help dissuade predators from eating him. So sometimes if you don't see a scary predator behind you, they might still think that he's looking at them because it looks like he's got eyes on the backs of his head. Holly would like to know, does he catch fish in the wild? They do. So they'll actually eat fish, and sometimes they'll actually catch crabs and crayfish out of the water as well. So they're actually really good at catching whatever they can find in their environment. And I do believe that might be it now for questions. If you do still have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And I'll do my best later on today to try and answer some of them for you.